Hi guys, welcome to this week's video. I am gonna go over a couple of things to see what the charts that I'm looking at and what's coming out as well for the next week. Look at the market calendar, and I'll break down some of the tickers where my thought process is and what I think we might see. So let's get into it and see. All right, so we do have a pretty busy week coming up with some of the really key important data coming out, especially the CPI. So CPI for if it comes lower than 8%, I think we might see a market bounce. But again, remember, good news has been bad for the market. Bad news has been market's been reacting the other way around as well. So it's honestly just when the data comes out, I would say give the market at least 10 to 15 minutes, let it settle down, let the market makers kind of digest the news that came out and then look for your setups. So that's what they are looking for. So if anything comes below 8, I think there is a chance that market will move. You also want to pay attention to the core inflation number, that is year over year. And so currently this is what I'm talking about, the core CPI number year over year, so 5.9%. So that's the number you want to pay attention to if it's going to come high or low. Sometimes I've noticed that this one takes a minute before the market kind of digests what the number has come out. So give time before you jump into any of your trades when this information is coming out. The good thing is it comes out pre-market, so we'll know what's happening when the market opens. But again, still, when market opens, it's good to give it a little bit time for it to settle down. And then we also have, a couple other things coming out on Thursday. Is the jobless claims number. And also keep in mind, Feds are going to be in blackout. They're not going to be talking. There isn't going to be any any comments coming from them until the FOMC meeting, which is going to be the next week, the following week. That's when they are going to have the FOMC meeting. That's when we will find out what's going to be happening. That's when they will be able to make the comments. But until then, Fed is in blackout. So just remember that. All right, so let's look at some of the charts. So I have SPY up here. The one thing I did wanted to highlight, I know we've talked about that September being the month that it has the really weak seasonality. So when I went back and I looked at the month of September for pretty much, I think I went back to the 2010. So if you look at it, and it kind of even lines up with the week we are going into it. So if you look at, this is again the week of the September 10th, September 13th, market drops. And come October, we pick up. So I've highlighted all of this. And then we go back again to 2020. And you can see September 11, 13, slight move higher. But then we make another lows again. Let's look at 19. Again, kind of a same situation where we are right now. And then we move back down. Here we go, another one, which is few days afterwards. It's on September 18th and September 19th, and you can see we have a nice pullback right there as well. This is the one where we had very little pullback. We continue to stay in the uptrend, but still it lines up with this week, what's happening, and still has that September pullback. And then you got your 2016. We kind of have the similar setup again for that same week of September 13, and we are pulling back. And look at this, kind of even lines up how our candles are looking. This is September 2015, and pretty much the same week. So you kind of get the idea. This week and next week is pretty crucial. You can see we still pull back, have the same thing in 2012. Literally the same pullback, same week, and we are again in this 10 to the 13, September 10th, 13th week of it, and then we pull back. So again, another one right there. We have, so you get the point that it's this week has been tend to be, or I would say this week and next week, both of them are going to be the ones that you want to be watching to see how low do we pull and are we holding those ones. So these are my levels that I am watching. I have a couple of my demands and supplies marked, not full of it, but this is what I am watching. The low for me would be coming into somewhere in the 296 300 exact area, but this is what I am watching. If we make it to 410 418 and then reject, my initial thought is somewhere in the 388, but keep in mind this does not happen in one day, right? We've seen large drops, however, but to get to a 388, you're not going to get in there in one day. So keep that in mind whenever at the rejects. If you are buying puts, you should not be buying puts with the smaller dates. You should be making sure that you have time on it. You don't want the trade to play out but not have a time on your side. So just make sure that you have your time on it. And look at these trend lines have been respected. We had a new trend line. We bounced beautifully from here. And we are now clearing out of through. It is actually right in a supply from a smaller time frame, even from it. And it's trying to get out of it. So I would say 410 is what you want to watch first. If we clear 410, we got the 418 next, and that will line up with all the rounds that I've made on the September months, and then we will see that pullback happening on it. And then let's look at SPX. All right, so SPX, actually, I have my fibs on it as well. We're about to be coming up to the 50% mark as well. And this 50% mark is also lines up with that 410 on the SPY. So this is what you want to watch. This actually does look like a bear flag. However, I normally call these ones as a megaphone, and these megaphones tend to pay out really well when they do reject at the top of it. And then we do have our next trend line that's coming up as well. So these are the levels that you want to mark on your chart. Anything that gets rejected right here on this Feb level, then the next, if rejected, then we're looking to the downside. But if we are starting to pull through it, this is what I'm looking at it, 420 to 422 area again. And we'll see how market reacts again to the CPI numbers as well. Since I like to look at all of the charts, so I want to show you the US 500 as well. You got on the US 500, you can see this is actually hitting the trend line already. So I'm definitely going to be paying attention to it. How does this trend line reacts tomorrow and to the CPI data? And my next would be this trend line. Or if we are going to be breaking below from here, I have my targets marked already. This is what I am going to be watching as well. And then let's just quickly look at the futures contracts as well. I don't know which one I started, but let me see. Okay, here we go. So even we'll know in a couple hours, actually in a few minutes, futures are going to be opening. So we'll see if we are going to continue to break from this trend line. Then this is my next target. Again, it's probably not going to reach there in one time. So I will definitely be watching first some of these key levels to break through it and then look for my entries. And then again, even the downside basically lines up that 388 on the futures lines up with your SPY as well. So as you can see, this also lines up with SPY as well right here. The other chart that I want to look at is QQ. QQ pretty much the similar setup right here as well. We're making that megaphone. We have that trend line. We've done the breakout of this trend line before. Right now we're testing we're back testing this trend line. So now are we gonna break through it? Then we have the continuation on the Qs to continue and first test test this trend line, and then we would go around the 320, 322 area. However, if we do start to break below, this is what you are probably looking at, 293, and then continue to break down for this week. So this is what I am going to be paying attention to first, to see how we hold above the 300 or 302 area. As I shown you guys before, the TIPS ETF, I think the QQ and TIPS kind of go pretty much hand in hand with each other. So this is another one. So, right there. This is already breaking below. So if you look at your QQ as well, we have a pretty similar setup. However, the QQs are testing back off the trend line, but do watch TIP with the QQ as well. You'll see how closely they follow each other as well. Now let's look at a couple other tickers. I do wanted to see crowd. All right, so we have this perfect channel as well, and where we are at 190, and we have the demand, the supply coming up as well, and top of this trend line. So anything that gets rejected here, since this channel has played really well, I would put some alerts up and look for your entry. Your first take profit would be somewhere in the 163 area. And then after that, if we continue to have that September lows on SPY, this is my target. I'm not saying it's going to happen all at once, but again, the potential for this one is more to the downside than the upside once it gets rejected in this zone. I'm looking for this small back up right about here and then head lower. This would be my path for crowd. And then let's look at BA. Okay. Again, BA is also in this beautiful channel as well. And as you can see, we've rejected on this trend line multiple times. We're sitting right on top of a support. I have at 156.96. The daily candle does not look that beautiful. However, if rest of the market is starting to bounce or BA starts to bounce, look for these areas for a reject. And then you will be looking at, I still have my target in the 122, 124 for BA. And this is what I will be watching on it. But again, your first take profit has to be around 140. And then we'll probably see a couple bounces. And those bounces can give you another entry as long as it doesn't break above this trend line. So whenever you are taking puts, just make sure that you put your stop losses right above it, because you don't want to get faked out either. And the trade continues to go in your direction that you were hoping for it. So let's even look at the monthly on Boeing. Look at that channel, how beautifully it is respecting it. And we have 18 days left on it, so that within that 18 days, it can touch that top of the trend line and then continue to come down as well. So make sure you pay attention to your longer time frames as well. All right, the next one is, let's look at Starbucks. All right, so on Starbucks, I am actually bearish. Looking at this candle that we've made, I'm not saying that we're not going to see a bounce. I think we'll probably see a bounce, especially I marked these dark pool prints that have taken place, and these are the levels. So I would watch, if we are breaking out of 89.60, you have a room higher to the 92.48. That's where I would take most of my profits and wait for reject to get into a put. If we break below 88.70, which it's currently at 88.69, however, if we have that slight pull up and then we break, I think taking a trade below, giving yourself an extra few cents, I would say wait for it to hit 88 exact. You could take profits along the way, somewhere in the 82, 85. And I do have a demand zone right here, which is my 75 would be my area that I want to take my last profits. So for these last take profits, you don't want to be working with the strike prices that are 2-3 months out. I would highly recommend taking further out into the 2023 2024 contracts to take full advantage of the move as well, but only take when all of these have been met. Again, it's a beautiful that channel as well. You have that nice trend down, and then this uh, I I call them kind of like a megaphones. So it's a it's respecting that, and this would be really nice if we do make it. This reject for an entry is gonna be perfect. However, if we are breaking out of the 92.48, you have your next supply is in 106 area. So this is where you would, if you are in a call, this is where it will has a potential to reach to it as well. Okay. Next is Netflix. You like the chart on the daily on Netflix as well. It has this beautiful trend line, and we do have a dark pool prints that came at 231.80, and it's $38 million. And Netflix has moved beautifully from here. So tomorrow, if we are moving and breaking above 235.14, I have a potential room for it to go up to 249.21. And then we have a beautiful gap that needs to be filled. So if you are taking calls, make sure nothing, I would say, even especially September being the bearish month up out to 2024. The other thing I like about Netflix is I think we're going to have a sector money rotation into XLC. And XLC's main holdings, Netflix is one of them. And if you look at XLC, where it bounced from, what a beautiful bounce from the demand zone it did. And look at that. You're next on XLC. I have 61.22. I have my next supply zone is 69 area. And then after that in the 81. This will all line up with your Netflix, Disney, Google, and who else is in there? Verizon, AT&T, all of these companies are in XLC, so you can definitely look into those ones. Definitely mark these and see what it does. However, if XLC is below 59.87, I would say don't touch Netflix, Disney for calls. As long as an XLC stays above this, then you have a more room to the upside. Otherwise, your next demand zone is pretty low here. Let's look at Disney quickly as well. All right, again, a beautiful, trend line breakout on Disney as well, and it moved actually from the weekly demand zone as well. So we are outside of it. Break. This is what I want to watch. If you look back here, I circled it, and this is where we got rejected last time. We had a nice consolidation reject, and we made the lows of it, right? So the trade would be, I know you're gonna say, oh, I'm not getting a best entry, but you're gonna have a confirmation entry. If it breaks above 116.58 and it holds, you have your next supply is at 130.43. And this also aligns with your XLC, Netflix. You can see the more room upside of it. And these are the dark pool prints on it. And looks like Netflix is already above the 113, 114, 115. It is slightly 2 cents below, but again, plus and minus of $2 with the dark pools. So if we are breaking out of this, definitely a beautiful room to the upside on Disney as well. Google. Okay. Look at that bounce from that megaphone, and what a bounce from the demand zone as well. So this is your demand. It bounced from it, nicely holding this trend line. If we have that pullback in the market because of CPI and it holds this trend line, you can take, like, look for calls if they are in your budget with the time on it, not just to the top of the trend line. I have a SPLY on Google, and Google's been a little bit behind than all the other tickers. So I think having this money rotation is most likely we'll see this come into XLC, and this again lines up with it. And we'll be looking at somewhere in the 134, 136 area is what I would look for it. The next one is Lululemon. Look at that daily candle and the rejection from SPLY. I completely missed this one, and it's like I even had my alerts on, alert came and I turned it off, didn't look for it. I'm really hoping for one more push into this SPLY so I can get my entry for a put. This is the weekly SPLY zone as well. My stop loss would be if we break above 370.89, but I'm not going to be looking for contracts below 2024. And look where it bounced from it as well. 283 would be my first take profit area, and then the low would be in the 253s. Because I'm going to have time on my side, I will definitely continue to hold this to take full benefit of the trade. But mark these levels. You can wait for a confirmation if you don't want to jump it in this area. Let it break below 340.54, let it hold, and then you have a room. It's going to recapture, get inside this trend line, and then you will have your next, my next zone or take profit is in this area is what I want to look for it is as well. So pay attention to, I think Lulu is setting up for a really good trade if you were to watch this one. Cliff is another one. All right. What a nice bounce on Cliff as well from this demand zone right here. And you do have a SPLY coming up, so you still have about a couple dollars in it that it can move higher into it. And then from there, I would say watch for 25.33. This should be your last take profit area, because if you look at right here, we have been rejected a few times. This was a rejection. This was another rejection. We came down, and we came pretty close to it. So 3 times pretty much we've been rejecting, and last time right here, rejection too, but we did break, and then this was our trend line reject, and that's also now a SPLY, and this SPLY is fresh. This SPLY is fresh as well. So both of the things you want to watch. If we continue breaking through this SPLY, this is gonna then turn into your demand, and then this will be your next take profit area as well. So I like where it moved from. This demand zone definitely looks really nice. So let's even look at the monthly. And monthly was a perfect as well. Even on the monthly, look at this zone being held beautifully as well. And nice bounce from the demand. And nice bounce now, back in June, we had a nice bounce from the demand again. And then you do have a SPLY coming up, which is still giving you a good setup. And we are looking at the monthly. So when you look at the monthly to make your decisions, just make sure that you are buying time for your contracts on it. All right, I think that's it for what I have. If you guys do like these videos, please subscribe to our channel, and let me know if you like me to break down anything else or include anything else into these videos. Thank you so much.